that roar when you ran out just puts goosebumps on the back of your neck.
Moss went straight through, Andrews there!
He's just forever looking for an opportunity.
Exhilarating football!
That's a good sign of a good team.
Accelerates and punches through them!
And he's only going to get better.
And the hammer stands them up! And Queensland going to do it again!
Well, hello and thanks for joining us for another year of Queenslander. I'm Adam Jackson. Great to be back again with Rugby League immortal Wally Lewis and Broncos, Maroons, State of Origin, Kangaroo legend Darren Lockyer. Boys, a long off-season. We're back into it now. What do you guys get up to, though, in the off-season?
I did a bit of touring around the country. Went up to Townsville, Cairns, and then did the Great Ocean Road. I've had the opportunity to do that a couple of times now. It's a great drive along there, fantastic. Some great scenery. Called into Newcastle on the way back and found out how many people dislike me in Newcastle, which there was quite a few.
You needed Joey there backing you up. Joey's always got your back, he loves you.
That would have been good. No, they were good, the people of Newcastle, along the waterfront there. It's we've just got a beautiful country. Yeah,
exactly. What about you, Lockyer? You're a bit of a movie star. If you haven't seen that Kia ad, look it up. How good was that?
Yeah, no, that was. I knew when we were on set it was going to be pretty special, pretty special ad. It was like a movie set. The amount of people they had there, in the production crew, the extras, and then the talent that's involved. It was, big production. And there was the pub that we did it at in Sydney. They had that closed for 4 days. So
for one ad.
For one ad, I'd hate to think what that cost just to close the pub for 4 days. But yeah, no. It's a good ad, and I think a lot of people have enjoyed it thus far, and let's hope it does the trick and sells some utes.
And as always, Alfie's stealing the show with his little cameo. You've got to keep out for Alfie in that. But round one, kind of underway after the Vegas round. A narrow loss for the Broncos in their season opener against the Roosters. Well, what did you make of their performance? They were just a little bit off, but you could kind of excuse it because Brendan Piakura, HIA, caused a big reshuffle in the forward pack. Paddy Carrigan playing out of position for the vast majority of that game. Yeah,
and when that happens earlier in the game, Adam, that's certainly not something that you plan for. It was a tough entry into the game, but I think the one thing that they can probably look forward to it is that if they were having some bad luck, they got rid of it early. There'll be some tough tasks coming up from the team. I've got no doubt about that. But the players will just have to settle back and probably give themselves a new charge in life. They know they disappointed themselves and their fans this time round, and that can often work as a great way of spurring them on for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think Piakura going off early, it sort of took away a lot of the go forward of the Broncos because Paddy Carrigan had to go to the edge. And I think we talk about the dimensions of the field being the same for both teams, but I think the Broncos with the speed of Ezra Mam and Reece Walsh were probably a bit more disadvantaged by that.
Yeah.
So I think there was two things. I think we got into a habit of trying to shift the ball too early before we got our go forward, and maybe our go forward wasn't there because Paddy wasn't there. You got to remember, Tom Flegler's moved on, Keenan Pelisea has moved on, Herbie. So they're going to have to adapt to, not having some of those players around. And I think what they would have learnt from this game was that we need to knock the door down, down the middle of the field first before we spread the ball. And look, the attitude was still there. Like late in the game, when the game was lost, there was still 4 or 5 defenders coming across in cover to stop a try. Yeah. So the attitude's there. I think they just need to adjust a few things.
To me, that game showcased how good Joey Manu is. Yeah. Like, not just that amazing flick pass, but he was sensational. He's one of the best players in the game.
Well, he's a footballer. He's an instinctive footballer. And I was amazed that flick pass. Like, I don't know how he got that ball to go backwards, the way his body was facing.
Yep.
That was incredible. A bit of skill.
Yeah, it's probably all the times that the players practice it before training, where they go out and just throw the ball around and try and come up with something spectacular. But yeah, I agree with you, Lockie. He's a quality player. He is very dangerous, and you have a look at him, you see he seems to be a quiet, unassuming sort of a bloke until he gets on the field and wants to knock over the opponents. Then that comes pretty easy to him.
What about the doubleheader overall? What did you make of it, watching it from afar? We weren't in Vegas, but it seemed to be a success. The people I've spoken to at ground level thought it probably turned out better than we thought it would turn out, if I'm honest.
It was a great marketing ploy from the perspective of growing the popularity of our game in Australia. Because everyone, for 3 weeks leading into that game, everyone in Brisbane, all they were talking about was Vegas. Like, you know, and it just put rugby league on the front page and the back page of the paper before even round one kicked off. So it was an enormous marketing, I guess, masterstroke from the game. And, you know, there was an element of growing the game in the US, and I think Peter V'landys was quoted as saying today, it's about building a foundation. Well, they've just laid a great foundation, now they need to build on it. But it was a huge success. You know, the TV ratings were enormous. And it just sort of illustrates if you get a build-up to a game like we see at Origin, people are going to watch it.
Yeah, plenty of predictions, people saying that there's going to be drama on the field, there's going to be some sort of accidents, the fence being too close. I think there was one occasion during the game where a guy was basically pushed into the fence. So, but I don't think there was anybody that saw that as blatantly dangerous. It was a showpiece event that took place, and I was quite happy at the end of the day. Then I think the rugby league bosses would have been sitting back thinking, well, that's it. We've had a double act there. It's worked out well.
Yeah, I feared with the smaller field that you might see like an 8-4 boring game, but even the second game was more defensive orientated, but still it was quite exciting. Maybe the in-goal area was a lot more noticeable, because I think that was 3.6 metres shorter. But as you alluded to, like, it probably worked against the Broncos. But had you watched that game in isolation, it didn't look too different.
Yeah, like, you know, it's all easy in hindsight, but I would have had a bit of a game plan where I'm throwing a lot of inside balls or crossing directions, because, you know, the block players and trying to beat players on the outside became a lot harder because it was more than 5 metres narrow. So that's a big difference. But and I thought the first game was high quality, a lot of ball movement. There was I think what the Americans wanted to see was some of our elite athletes in the open, and they got to see a bit of that, not so much in the second game.
Yeah, Jason's one was good with the Ilias ankle tap,
And you adjust your game too. And I mean, like, I'm sure you remember playing in England, the fields over there are smaller, but we don't bring that to the headlines into play too much, and they are skinnier fields and a little bit shorter in behind the dead ball lines, but that's never been sort of brought to the fore. So I think the league bosses would have been, the NRL bosses would have been ecstatic with the way that it turned out.
And it's part of a 5-year plan. Peter V'landys, Andrew Abdo said they'll definitely be back in Vegas next year. Which Queensland team do you think go? We're hearing that the Dolphins have been offered to be one of the 4 teams. Is that the right way to go? And for the next 4 years, rotate the Queensland teams? The Broncos went this year, maybe the Dolphins and the Cowboys and the Titans. So you capture one element of that Queensland audience?
Look, I think you definitely rotate the Queensland teams. No disrespect to Christian Wolf, but, you know, there'll be no Wayne Bennett at the Dolphins next year.
Drag him to Vegas. Wal's been to Vegas with Wayne.
In 87,
Highly entertaining.
Oh, he loves Vegas, Wayne. He'll be there with
the
bells
NRL
on.
can pay him to be an ambassador.
Oh, yes.
Look, I think you take, you know, there's obviously 3 to pick from. It doesn't really matter. I think it's just an NRL club. One of them's from Queensland, and I'm sure you'd get a lot of North Queenslanders saving up if they knew the Cowboys were going over there. They'd probably, a lot of Christmas presents would be missed.
Definitely
saving for Vegas.
Yeah, based on the success we saw this year, a lot of Broncos fans in the crowd. One of those Queensland teams, the Titans, while very pivotal year for their existence with Des Hasler coming as coach. What do you expect the main difference to be for Gold Coast now that Desi's coaching them?
They'll be disciplined, determined, controlled, everything about their game. He's a guy that's seriously 100% attached to the game, making sure the players certainly are as well. You know, he probably will be working overtime on trying to get the backbone of that side in place early so that he can start the season quite well. But he is, I quite admire, having watched Ez over the years, the way that he's turned some players that have been regarded as being average in other areas to being very, very good players under his direction.
He's a fitness freak, isn't he? So he likes...
Absolutely.
Yeah, when he played, he was like extremely fit. And I think, you know, he would instill that in his S&C coaches at the club to say, right, I want my players rock hard fit. And that makes a difference. I noticed the Roosters have changed their S&C coach, and they looked fit in the dressing room before the game, and they played accordingly. So that's what I'm expecting from the Titans, to be a lot fitter individually. And I think what that means is when they're, and I think this would be one of their sort of, one of their negatives or their issues in the past about being resilient when the game's in the balance. And I think fitness plays a big part in that. So I think they'll be a lot more resilient this year.
Do you think they're a genuine finals contender? I don't have them in my top 8. Like, they break your heart every year. You look at them on paper, you think they're going to get better, but like Lockyer said, they're just not resilient enough in those moments. So, what do you reckon? I don't have them in my top 8.
I think the first 6 games of the season will dictate the outcome of whether they finish in that position or not. Look, let's be honest, virtually everybody is in the category where they're saying we don't think the Gold Coast are going to finish up high enough on the ladder. Injuries will dictate that, but I think just to go back to that point about the first 6 games of the season, it'll be the confidence that they gain from how they start and how the team adjusts to Dez's demands. He is one of those guys that can turn a pretty average first-grade football into an extremely good one. He's done it on a number of occasions. So making a guess on it, I probably think they're going to finish just wide of it, but I'd love to see a great season from the Gold Coast.
And Wall makes a good point there, Lockie. If you look through their draw, it's a pretty soft draw for the Titans. So Dragons at home, they've got the bye, the Bulldogs, the Dolphins, the Cowboys. So the first 5 rounds, they don't play a team that was in the top 8 last year.
Yeah. I mean, this time of year when a team hasn't played a game, you feel like all of them can make the finals.
Yeah.
But it can change very quickly. I think for the Titans, if they get continuity with their spine, which they always struggle, and that's not through mainly form, it's through injuries. If they can get continuity there 1, 6, 7 and 9, I think they can play finals.
Yep.
But if they have some unlucky, injuries in those positions, I think they're going to find it tough.
And they start on the back foot too, because no Jaden Campbell with that knee patella injury till round 4 at least. No David Fafita, their origin forward, till round 4. But what do you guys think of that shift? Desi's come in and said, AJ Brimson, you're a centre now from now on. Jaden Campbell's our fullback. Do you like the definitive nature of that? It's
always been a conundrum how you fit, Jaden Campbell, AJ Brimson and, Kieran Foran in the team ever since Kieran came. So I actually like it because I think AJ Brimson's a footballer. I think when you give him the football, he's difficult to handle because he's a strong runner. He's good on his feet. He's obviously got to, get used to the defensive workload in that position. But I think Jaden Campbell, without a doubt, his best position is fullback. And I think the Titans are their most dangerous when he's there.
Yeah. And if you've got enough good players, particularly in the back line, AJ, I think you put him in.
Yeah.
If you've got 3 or 4 Darren Lockyers in the side, you're not going to just put one in because he's in that position and, let's see what we can do. Do we put him on the bench? You make best use of the talent that's available. And it may take a little while to adjust to those different positions, but, if they're good enough, they're going to fit in.
Yeah, I heard Brimson the other day saying he's taken inspiration from Val Holmes. A couple of years ago, Val Holmes was a winger fullback. He moved to the centres. We thought, how's that going to go? And now Val Holmes is one of the best centres in the game. So it's proven that it can be done. He did also get asked in a press conference this week, AJ Brimson, have you asked Mal for any advice? Because Mal's still the advisor on the Titans. And he said, no, I don't have anything to watch on a black and white recording on my phone. So he's not used to watching black and white vision, AJ Brimson. So one thing you always get off AJ is you get a bit of humour. So,
it's good. See if he can borrow Mel's arm guard.
Yeah, I know. That big thing knocking people out in the 80s and early 90s. But we do get a Queensland Derby this weekend while the Broncos are kind of away with this round 1.5 bye. The Dolphins play the Cowboys, Suncorp Stadium, Sunday afternoon. Which team has the most at stake in this Queensland affair, do you think?
The Dolphins, I think, confidence-wise. I think that it'll be an outstanding opportunity for them to be able to get a good start and boost their confidence. So I guess it'll be up to the players to prove it. They've got a handy coach on board that will be basically handing out requirements, and if you don't fulfil those requirements under his guidance, you know about it. So there's plenty of people that are competing for positions, and I think that'll be the best thing for them.
Yeah, Dolphins started, I'm probably the opposite in terms of who's got the most at stake. Well, I mean, Dolphins started really well last year and they upset the Roosters at Suncorp round 1. But, you know, Cowboys had a pretty ordinary year last year. I think most people expected them to win this game. So I feel like most of the pressure's on the Cowboys to, A, win this game and, B, have a good year. So it'd be interesting to see how the Cowboys come out of the blocks.
And as Walt touched on there, Wayne Bennett, it's his last year coaching the Dolphins. Every club he's coached in the NRL have played finals football while he's been in charge. How motivated will he be to get the Dolphins to the finals, because he doesn't want that little asterisk next to his coaching record?
I think he wants to build the team. You know, he obviously had a plan in place when he came to the Dolphins, and he just wants them to improve every year. So when Christian takes over, they're heading in the right direction. So I don't think
it's not about this year.
I don't think it's about playing finals. I just think he wants them to get better with every year, and obviously they were impacted, or they were disadvantaged a little bit about getting their squad together. Yeah. They're starting to get some players like Flegler and Farnsworth there, and so the roster's building. I think he just wants their game to build with it.
He likes making them better performers on the field, more consistent performers on the field, and as Wayne often used to say, and I want to make a better person out of you. That was part of his intentions, and all the guys that played under, he certainly appreciated the guidance that he gave them, both on and off the field.
Well, I had the Dolphins in my top 8 until Tom Gilbert got injured. Yeah. To me, like, he's the heart and soul in that team. Yep. That's so destructive for their chances.
Yeah, I think the similar type of player, like Herbie Farnsworth, in terms of work ethic and what he brings to the culture, I think, Tom, which I feel sorry and disappointed for him, because that's one long-term injury after another. That's heartbreaking. So, mate, I hope the recovery goes well and we see you back again next year. But I think Herbie will bring energy. That maybe they'll miss with Tom.
Which I think the Broncos missed on the weekend. They missed Herbie.
And, well, they did, but getting back to the Tom Gilbert thing, it was no wonder that the tissues were on your desk.
Yeah, we're big fans of Tom Gilbert.
Absolutely shattered, both of us. We love to see him. He's a guy that every time he goes out onto the football field, you don't want to say that you're petrified of your opponent or you're scared of your opponent, but the respect that every player in the NRL would have for Tom Gilbert would be enormous. He's just a competitor. He never gives up, and he's one of those blokes that he makes out the best he possibly can to cause as much pain for the opposition.
That's what I was looking forward to, the fear factor, potential Dolphins backer. Gilbert, Tom Flegler, Felice Kafusi. Imagine all the hits that they could put on. You'd be scaring the opposition straight.
Yeah.
But
it feels like you've gone off the Cowboys and you're on the Dolphins band.
I spend a lot of time on the Dolphins now. I technically live in their catchment area. They keep telling me, because I live on the Sunshine Coast. That's part of their zone.
Are you allowed to be a member of a club?
No, I don't know.
He may be already.
I'm actually a member of the Broncos Leagues Club. They do good specials Monday and Tuesday. I think it's the Barra and the Steak special. But anyway, while we're on the Cowboys, Lockyer, Jason and Taumalolo, he's now a front rower. How important is this season for his year? And also the fact that he doesn't have the captaincy anymore, that could be a relief for him?
Yeah, I think it would be a relief. I think whether you play 10 or 13, there's not a lot of difference. You're a middle forward.
Yeah.
And your role is to get some momentum, get the team forward and try and get the halves to play off the back of that. So I don't think his role changes a hell of a lot. I think if you look back to his best years, like JT the other JT used to make no secret of it. He just wait till Jason ran and then I just played off the back of that. And I just think if he gets his game simplified and it's all about getting up flat and getting that momentum for his team. But I think to do that, he needs to be in the best physical shape he can be in. And I think that's the key. You know, I know they've had a good off-season, and I just hope he's, like, physically really fit. And, you know, I think that'll be the key to him having a good year. If he's physically fit and he can maintain that, I've got no doubt that Jason can have a huge benefit to the team.
Yeah, and if he's quite comfortable with the role that's been given to him from the coach, if he feels comfortable with it, I mean, he can get given a role, one that he mightn't like all that much, but we've seen enough of him over the recent years where he's one of the most powerful ball carriers in the game. Fantastic to see him every time he charges with the ball, and as long as Lockyer said, as long as he's feeling comfortable with the job at hand, I think we're going to see the best of him for throughout the course of the year.
Well, OK, before we wrap it up, a few quick predictions for the season ahead. We could have egg on our faces by the end of the year, but Queensland team, who will be the highest ranked Queensland team come September? I'm sticking solid. I'm going Cowboys. History-making year for my boy Felty. Lockyer, 2 more tries, I think it is, and he becomes the all-time leading try scorer for the Cowboys, overtaking Matty Bowen. So good luck, Felty. Cowboys to be the top Queensland team.
Well, I'm sticking solid too. I'll go the Broncos. Right. Yeah, it was a little bit clunky on the weekend, but I liked their attitude in defence, so I still think they're going to have a good year. They've got a tough first month. They've got a tough first month, but
Roosters, Rabbitohs, Panthers, Cowboys, Storm. Yeah. That's very tough.
That's the first 6 weeks is tough, but if they can get through that with a few wins, that puts them in good stead. So Broncos for me. Yeah,
I'll stick with the Broncos there, and I think the thing that can probably be damaged most is confidence with the draw that Lockyer read out. That's one hell of a start to the season, but I think that in a funny sort of a way, the way that they've started this year, the disappointment of defeat, be it in an exhibition game away from home, that will inspire them to bigger and better things.
And what about the opposite side of the ledger, the team under the most pressure after the first month of football? Who do you think it will be?
Well, I did a bit of homework, and the Cows only got 1 home game, I think, in the first month.
Yeah. 2 games at Suncorp Stadium, but only 1 in Townsville. Yeah.
And so I think everyone expects the Cowboys to go better this year, and 3 games away in the first month, they could be. Well, that's my prediction. After a month, they're the team under most pressure.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lockyer. Exactly that. Many people will say, surely it's the Titans if they're not winning, but I don't see them as being under enormous pressure. The teams that they play may be a little bit off when they're coming to play on the Gold Coast, as we've seen so often before. So yeah, I agree. It'll be North Queensland.
Yeah, and just on the Dolphins draw, we've gone through everyone else. Cowboys, Dragons, bye, Titans, Tigers. So that's a relatively soft draw as well for the Dolphins. So they could be under pressure after the first month of football unless they've got a couple of wins under their belt. So, yeah, interesting machinations there. The player who needs to lift his form from 2023, I'm going to go the entire Titans forward pack except for Tino. The rest of the forwards need to stand up and start supporting him more.
Well, I was going to say David for feeder, only because we know what he's capable of, and I think everyone expects that from him every week. But I just think, under a new coach, I think it's, there's an opportunity for him to, if the Titans are going to play finals football, then David needs to have a good year. I'm not saying he didn't have a good year last year, but I think he's got more in him, and I think we need to see that if the Titans are to be successful in 24.
Absolutely. That's exactly right, Lockyer. I agree with you on the Fafita, but I also think that Jason Taumalolo is under a bit of pressure this year. I still have this thing, I know I talk about it to Adam all the time, about him moving from lock to front row. Maybe it's because of whether his intentions are to be playing left side or right side. I just see him as being one of the most talented, powerful ball carriers in recent memory. So I'd put him into that category. But for Fafita, he's probably the guy that, for the Gold Coast to shine and to be impressive, he has got to lead. He has got to inspire his teammates and become an absolute horror for the opposition defence.
And the last one, the player who's the most valuable to his side in 2024. I'm going to go a bit left field. I'm going to say Sean O'Sullivan for the Dolphins, because to me that's kind of their missing link, their weakness at the Dolphins, the halves, and he's only their real out-and-out halfback. He had a good start to the season last year. They were undefeated after 3 games. As soon as he got injured, they fell off the cliff. So I think he's so valuable for the Dolphins, him to stay fit and him to have a good year if they play finals.
Well, in a similar vein, I think Chad Townsend
for
the Cowboys. I mean, Tom Dearden's a good young player that just plays with it all heart every week. And I thought Chad was probably a little bit down on what he had the year before. And I think if the Cowboys have a good year, I think we all agree the 7 needs to have a good one. So I think, for mine, Chad.
I agree with you, Lockie. Chad, he had a tough year last year, and a lot of the blame got put on his shoulders. He was one of those guys that was expected to win the game for the Cowboys more often than not, and that was very unfair. Plenty of other guys, but there's also a guy that I think that won't be under pressure every week in Cam Munster.
Okay.
How he's going
Storm's a Queensland team, so we'll let you off there. Yeah.
He's a Queenslander, and when he comes back to be in the representative game, going to love to watch him again. He's a wonderful player, and I love seeing him play.
Apparently he slipped in the shower too and hurt his calf. In typical Cam Munster fashion, he's the one who could come up with that. But you'll see...
That's the old... I've heard those ones before.
Yeah.
Normally they've slipped at a nightclub at 2 a.m. in the morning.
But we'll see Cam Munster, Harry Grant, the rest of the Queenslanders in action Friday night on Nine's Wide World Sports. The Panthers up against the Storm. And then Sunday afternoon, footy on Wide World Sports, that Queensland Derby from Suncorp Stadium. The Dolphins up against the Cowboys. We can't wait. Great year of Queensland footy on the way. And we'll cover it all with Lockyer and Wall, the king, every week.
This year, NRL on 9 is your one-stop shop for all footy.
That's right, Freddie. Not about the highlights. Action. 7 days a week.
Billy and Gus podcast. Get that on your drive on the way home. Immortal Behaviour. Grab a seat on the couch for that. And, of course, my favourite, Freddie in the Own.
The best footy brains, the biggest games.
Don't trust the algorithm. Subscribe to NRL on 9 and get all your entertainment there.